King began the Protestant Reformation by criticizing the Catholic Church. The main ideas of the Reformation were to fight against the corruption coming from the Catholic Church, which through the sale of indulgences profited economically, which caused discomfort among many faithful followers of the Catholic Church. Thank you.
Okay, who else?
I can go, Professor.
Okay, Dora, go ahead.
So the Protestant Revolution was a result of pervasive desire for religious change across Europe. Martin Luther began the Reformation by criticizing the Catholic Church. And it was when King Henry VIII broke from the Catholic Church because the Pope would not allow him to get a divorce, that the Church of England was established.
Who else? Anybody else? Alenia Reynoso, what do you think? Okay, Amy. Amy?
I'm sorry, Professor, which question is it?
The question is, what was the Protestant Reformation and what impact did it has in the Catholic Church?
Oh, I mean, I just wrote Martin Luther began Protestant Reformation that criticized Catholic Church, and his revolutionary teachings made extensive strides, especially among the peasants and educated commoners.
Okay.
And his ideas spread through Europe, and the same story with the King Henry.
Anybody else? Anybody? Okay, let me say something about that. Listen, the Protestant Reformation was as any other church, as in any other church, was a contradiction, a antagonism between within the Catholic Church. A contradiction that was produced in a theological language. That is, as you said, some of you said, the Luther separation because this sale of indulgence, things like that. It is the sale of indulgence is of course that people could buy their own way to heaven, right? That's what it is. And the Catholic Church, in the Catholic Church, there were people who were against that. Now, at the bottom, this religious split, this religious conflict are the result of very earthly reasons. What happened in the 16th century, 16th, 17th century, in the Catholic Church, the split and the formation of these two groups, that was the result of a long past. It was the result throughout the Middle Ages. There was a contradiction between who control who in the church, who control what aspect in the church and society, and the popes, the leaders, the maximum leaders of the Catholic Church, they would say, I have jurisdiction in the in the city of God, as it was called, the city of God, and the social, the civil society, the civil, the civil of men. Right? That means it was a fight between, a contradiction between the princes and the leaders of the church for matters that were elderly matters, right? That were to do with wealth, with who control more the resources of the that owned by the church, and who has the jurisdiction of what. That is why the Prince of England, create the Protestant religion, and became himself this. Now of course the Pope had nothing to do, but then claimed himself at the top of the leadership of the church, and he a prince, right, and princes who were have access to power. They declare almost everywhere in Europe, in other parts, not only in England, but in other parts, at the top of the church. And that is why, in the case of England, the pilgrims, they were called, they were people who came out of the Catholic Church as part of the Protestant church, and they were poor, and they started to see the luxury that the king and the queens and the elite, how they live, right? And they say, well, but before it was, we have the Pope that was the wealthier person in the world, and now we have a king who is doing the same thing, and they were persecuted. and went around, that's why they were the pilgrims, and went around the Europe, persecuted, and end up in what is today the United States, right? The pilgrims. So the religious have been in the hands of the elites because it is a force, a spiritual force that legitimate political and political power, and behind every religious split, there have been an interest, very earthly interest. Okay, is there anyone who wants to say something else, to add, or to be against?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So could you repeat again why the pilgrims were persecuted? It was just because they had followed the Protestant religion, or was it another reason?
No. They were this particular group. They were British. They were English, right?
Yes.
And they were Protestant, like the nobility, like the king and the queen. But they were poor. There was a part that has to do with class. They were at the bottom of they were the part of the peasants at the bottom of the society. And they saw these people and they started to criticize that.
So it was because of their class.
Yes, because at the top, the monarchy and the elite of the society, they controlled the church, and that the same way that the Pope before that controlled the Catholic Church, and they split, and they say, what's going to happen with us? If this before we have the Pope, and now we have the king or the monarchies, you know.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's move on. Who want to do number 2?
I can do it.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Sabrina, by the way.
Okay. Yeah.
Number 2 says, what social changes did the bubonic plague bring to European societies? I said that some of the changes were that the peasants demanded higher wages. There was a new middle class of merchants, lawyers, and physicians, which was an example of equality among poor people. And then there was the desire to share in the spoils of conquest, which inspired people to fight, move away from home, and take on colonization in distant places.
Okay. Who else? Very good. Who else?
May I, Professor?
Yes, go ahead.
The Black Death caused labor shortages and inflation, leading to a demand among lower-class citizens for higher wages. Merchants, lawyers, and physicians inspired the common folk to believe that it was possible to change their social class if they put enough effort into it.
Good. Who else?
Hi, Professor. It's Stephanie.
Stephanie, okay.
Yeah. I wrote, as people died, it became harder to find people to harvest crops and produce goods, causing labor shortages. And then as laborers became more scarce, peasants were able to demand higher wages.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Very good. Who else? Okay, let's move on to All of you got the essence of the problem. Okay, who wants to do number 3? Hello?
I could go, Professor.
Okay, go ahead.
George.
Yes.
Okay, number 3. What was the Renaissance and what impacts in European society? It refers to the period in European civilization that was marked by a revival of classical learning and wisdom after a long period of cultural decline and stagnation.
Okay. Who else?
May I go, Professor?
Yes, go ahead.
The Renaissance was a movement of technological, scientific, and artistic enlightenment in Europe, which caused the Europeans to become more free thinking.
Okay, that's good. And what's her name?
Benjamin Stuck.
Benjamin. Okay. Who else? Hello. Let me see. Alenia Reynoso.
I can go, Professor.
Okay, go ahead. Dora. Go.
So it was when Europe emerged from centuries of darkness and ignorance. They were able to evaluate ideals and attain progress. Education was essential to redirect society from superstition and subversive of the Middle Age to intelligence and enlightenment.
Okay. Who else? Anybody else? Arifur Rabman. What do you say?
Professor, can I go?
Yes, go ahead.
Professor, this is Fozzie. So, yeah, I agree with what was the other student said. I also think that the Renaissance kind of reminds me of like the kind of golden age that Islam had, like breakthroughs in science and medicine. But here in the Renaissance, there's also breakthroughs and advances in like art and music.
Who else? Elizabeth Maldonado, what do you say? Elizabeth? Okay. Bianca, what do you say? Okay, let me say something about this. The Renaissance, the rebirth, that's what it was. Was or contribute to push the advancement of capitalism. It is the end of a process that took place after the end of the Roman Empire, after the death of the Roman Empire, because the organization that maintained people together and people people trying to enlightenment the people who live in the Roman Empire that was extent. when the Roman Empire entered into a crisis and ended, there was only one institution that could maintain the unity of the people who were members of the Roman Empire. There was that was difficult. It was very difficult to maintain the unity. That was when the people started to create their own ethnic identity, the language, right? From Latin, that was the language of the empire. From Latin, some evolved into Spanish, others into Italian, others in all the Romanian, which is a Latin language. All these languages evolved as a result of that event. And the only institution that could maintain certain space of unity was the Catholic Church. But the Catholic Church was, and excuse me, in some aspect, I respect the Catholic people and all religions. I'm not a religious person, but the Catholic Church there is two things that they dislike a lot, historically. Two things. One is the sex. I'm talking about the formally, I believe that people, most Catholic practice, Catholic members of the leaders of the Catholic Church, maybe they live in a tenets of sexual, but that's very, very hard. But they have still today, they request from their priest that they don't have sex. And why that antagonistic contradiction with the sexuality? Because sexuality, you should, in the Catholic Church, you should love God more than anything else. And sex and that love for God are not go together. Don't go together. And to promote that, they make the people who work with the priests, at least, and the other, and the leader, not to have sex. There's nothing more than the communion with God. Nothing more pleasant than the community or communion with God, the communion with God. And that is not the case. That is not the case. That's one thing. And the other is a science. The other is science. And the fact that the church control the peasants and created what was called the Dark Ages. Right? The Dark Ages. The dark something. I'm sorry. The Dark Ages, right? Were contrary to what happened with Islam in those times, their advancement in all aspects of life, including medicine, including someone talk about that, and probably we're going to talk about that later. In comparison with that, the Christian became backward. So the Renaissance means the rebirth of that conditions of that the Western part had at the time of the empire, of the Roman Empire. And it was, as you said, everything that you said, it was to go back, look back to Greek culture and everything that was produced. It was that. The rest you said it. And the Renaissance is that a rebirth of the cultural environment in which the empire left the people, the Christians in its church. Okay, is there any else you want to say about something that you want to say or that you want to disagree with? Okay, so let's move on. How many minutes do we have? We have to speed up. 20. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Number 4. Who wants to do number 4?
Number 5, Professor.
In number 5? Okay.
Sorry. Number 4. Excuse me.
Yes,
sorry.
it's number 4. Yes. Who wants to do number 4?
I can do it.
Yes, go ahead.
What kind of changes did the Enlightenment produce in Europe and Latin America? The Enlightenment inspired Haiti to successfully revolt against the French, driving them from their soil. Several other Latin American nations followed in Haiti's tracks, routing their foreign oppressors from their land.
Who else? Hello? Anybody else?
I can go, Professor.
Dora, go ahead.
So the Age of the Enlightenment thinkers allowed the United States to revolt against Great Britain. And the British and French organized diversity to support of a centralized government.
Okay. Who else?
Let me try, Professor.
Go ahead.
The Enlightenment promoted radical changes such as in Haiti, Enlightenment ideology inspired enslaved Africans to revolt against the local French aristocracy to win their independence and abolish slavery.
Good. Good. Who else? Anybody else?
I'll go, Professor.
Sabrina, go ahead.
I said that nations turning to war over colonization and expansion further unified their citizens, beginning to legitimize democracy, freedom, and a new ideology, a system for social, political, and economic programs as a result.
Okay. Who else? The Enlightenment was all that. I'm not going to say much. The Enlightenment was the time of the talking about the 18th century, the 18th century Enlightenment, where this love for the knowledge, for liberation, for freedom, the Enlightenment was the source of the decision of the French revolutionary and the revolution. The Enlightenment influenced Machiavelli in all his theory, genius theory, even though they have demonized him, which so talk about some other time. But it was that. It was people like Jane Jackson Rousseau, who create the phrase, a very famous phrase, where he say, the first person that took a piece of land, took a piece of land and said, this is mine, was the true founder of government. The true, what he means with that, he didn't say government, but he said civil society. And civil society at that time means government. And the reason why he's saying that is because private property and the government goes together, are created together, because one, the aim historically, the aim of the government is to support and take care of the people, or the rich people, or those who have wealth. So those who don't have wealth not take it away. It's a very interesting. But let's continue. Is there someone who wants to say something? Okay. Number 5. Who wants to do number 5?
I'll go.
Okay, go ahead.
So why did Simon Bolivar go to Haiti? After learning about the Enlightenment, he eventually went to France and saw the changes happening from it and how it affected Haiti's revolution. That inspired him to fight for Venezuela's freedom. And after multiple failures, he went to Haiti to get military force to support him.
Okay, very good. Who else?
May I go?
Yes, go ahead.
Simon Bolivar went to Haiti to seek the help of their military in his attempt to liberate Venezuela.
Okay. Who else?
I could go, Professor.
Okay, George, go ahead.
Yes, he was seeking assistance from Alexander Petion, president of Haiti, in his quest to liberate Latin America from Spain, colonial rule, and its war order of slavery.
Okay. Who else?
I could go.
Okay, go ahead.
This is Benjamin Burgos, and I pretty much wrote the same as everyone else. I just wanted to add on the fact that he realized that the key to winning against Venezuela's oppressors was to build a strong, organized army, and that's why he had spent initially 3 years and asked for Haiti's help in order to achieve that goal he had.
Okay, who else? Anybody else? Okay, let me say something about Bolivar. Bolivar was a criollo, right? El criollo. The criollos were, who were the criollos? Who can answer that?
Isn't that part of the caste system?
Oh, yes, it has to do with the caste system.
So they're directly under the peninsulares. So
Yes.
they were born in oh my gosh. They were born like in the colony, but they're not originated from Spain. And they did have some legal power, but not as much in comparison to the peninsulares.
Yes, they were below the peninsula. They were pure Spaniards, right? Both parents, but they were, as you said, they have less political power. They could not do certain things, and it is from this group, the criollos. Today, criollos is the word is used in the Caribbean, in the Dominican Republic, and in Cuba, to mean people that are from those countries where they are. Now, when they were born, the criollos. Bolivar was a criollo. He was born here in the New World, and his parents were rich. They have a lot of money, and he started to radicalize himself in terms of getting the Spaniards out of the revolutionary. And he started to, as you said, looking for help in many places. He went to the Haitians. Haiti was one of the most rich, wealthier at that time country in Latin America, and he went to asking to the Haitians for money, and they say, yes, we're going to give you all the money you want, but with one condition. you have to abolish slavery in every country that you liberate. And because the Haitians have defeated, have become free not too long ago. Right? They were already in control of their country and their resources. And of course, he told them, Simón Bolívar told them, yes, it was easy for him to do that, because before that, when he was 19, 20 years, he took his slave, the slave of his house, and he called them to the backyard. He said, I'm going to give you freedom, and not only the freedom so you can go wherever you want, but I'm going to share the money the resources that you that you themselves created, I'm going to share with you that. But if you want to enter glory, follow me. Follow me. And they follow him. That's why the struggle for independence in Latin America have more a diversity of ethnic groups participating than happened in the United States, in the American Revolution against Great Britain. Maybe we talk about that later. But the point is that, and he liberate country after country, liberate 4 or 5 directly countries, and indirectly contribute with the leadership of those who fight for the independence everywhere in Latin America. Okay, there's something you want to say about this. Okay, let's move on. Number 6. Why did Bolivar coin the phrase farming the sea? What does that mean?
I go, Professor?
Yes, go ahead.
I said that Latin America, according to him, couldn't be governed, and tyrants would control its destiny until, exhausted from captivity, it would start again from scratch on its own, which is why he coined the phrase farming the sea.
Okay. Who else?
May I go, Professor?
Yes, go ahead.
Bolivar coined the phrase farming the sea to describe the seeming impossibility of securing a proper revolution.
Yes. Who else? Yes, he said that, look, the idea of Bolivar was to create one country of all the countries of Latin America, to create one country. And he tried to do that, like La Gran Colombia, it was going to be a name. And for a time, they organized with some of the very few, La Gran Colombia. And why? Because the elite, the owners of the land, the landlords, they didn't want that. They want the control of everything. And it was the elite, the oligarchy, as it was called, that the rich people that was against Bolivar and prevent the Bolivar from the unify these these countries, these countries. So when he say Bolivar died poor in a jungle. There is a very famous book by a very good writer in Colombian writer, Garcia Marquez. And he wrote a book, The General in His Labyrinth, where he talked about precisely, like based on that fact that the numbers of men so great in history, the liberators of people, countries, end up in the conditions he died because he couldn't get this oligarchy to put on the side their to put on the side all that they have that they have, right? And put the motherland, the idea of freedom, etc., etc. They couldn't do that, and they killed Simon Bolivar, and he said, I'm farming the sea. I try to farm the sea. And if you, that's impossible, as someone said. Okay, let's move on. The last question, I think it's the last question, right? No, number 7. Who wants to do number 7?
I'll do it if you want.
Okay, go ahead.
What does this term syncretism mean, and how does it apply to Latin America? Syncretism, the amalgamation of various cultures or identities into one, applies to Latin America's post-liberation attempts to form a centralized government with a single top tier ruler.
Is that number 7?
Oh no, sorry, that's number 8. Sorry. Who were the main leaders of Latin American independence in the wars against Spain, and how successful were they? Simón Bolívar and Manuela Sanz were leaders in the African and Latin American independence wars against Spain. They were successful in liberating the land, but unsuccessful in maintaining a centralized government with accommodating regional interests.
Okay, who else? Okay, listen, we're going to go to discuss that the next time we meet, okay? These 2 questions, number 7 and number 8. We're going over that. And of course, the others readings that we are going to have for when we get together the next time. So, is there anything you want to say? Okay, so have a good night. Have a good holidays. Because
thank you, Rosa. You too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.